Hi, welcome. My name is Janet Farnsworth. I help women struggling with their body image and the experience of their bodies to be ready for and have deeply satisfying, intimate relationships. I spent about 30 years as a clinician and therapist and got my first master's in social work, specializing in women and violence, sexual violence in particular. I did postgraduate work in group therapy and group systems, and then spent several years as a children's and family therapist before becoming a parent myself, and then realizing I had to learn a whole new set of skills. And it was when my second went back to school that I went to get a second master's in creative and expressive therapies. And it was there that I had the good fortune to have a professor tell me, just do it. And so I've spent the last 17 years specializing in women's body confidence and healing. During those years, I've authored 2 best-selling books, Love Your Body and Your Body is Your Superpower, and have helped hundreds of women transform the experience of their bodies from one of suffering into one of bliss. But perhaps most importantly, I have been and am the woman I help. As a childhood assault survivor, I know personally what it is to be in a state of war with my body. During my lifetime, when I wasn't starving it or stuffing and numbing it, I was always savagely judging it. I know personally what it is to be so disconnected and disenchanted with my body that I can't even look in the mirror, let alone imagine someone else looking at it or touching it. I know personally what it is to have actual body loathing. And for some of us, it's not body loathing, it's actually disconnection. It's a kind of sense of an awareness that a body, I don't even know what that is. But that doesn't mean that we don't also long for intimacy and love and even great sex. It means that we get caught between the longing and the having. And that is why I have spent these last 17 years specializing and concentrating all of the different modalities and practices, from shamanic work to yoga to clinical therapy to the science of the mind and the body, into one system. And it really is thanks to the women that I have been gifted to work with that I can now come to you and say, I would love to share with you just a little bit about what that system is. So right now you can start the journey from loathing or disconnection to love. This system is called the B.O.D.Y method, and it has just 4 steps that have steps underneath it. And when you do the deep dive with me, if you choose, or we ever get a chance to work together in a deeper way, there are steps inside the steps, but essentially just 4. And the first one of the B.O.D.Y method for intimacy is this. B is for biology. And what that means is this is an opportunity to take yourself off a certain track, to take yourself off the track that your body is what it looks like, and onto the track of what your body is. Now, just very briefly, believing and understanding that how you relate to your body is its appearance is actually biologically in part wired. And that means that right now, 90% of your brain is actually geared to process information visually. Like, that makes sense when we were in the jungle, when we saw a tiger a mile away and reacted, we lived longer than if we smelled the tiger and reacted. So progressively, your brain has been hardwired to be oriented to sight. That combined with, and we again do this more deeply in the program, but that combined with how identity is formed, create the illusion that your body is an appearance. And that just means quickly that you're not born knowing that you are beautiful or sexy. Your sense of self-awareness or identity is formed in relationship to other people. So that, you think you are funny because you make people laugh. You think that you're a good cook because people like your food or it tastes good. You think you're smart because you test well compared to other people, or you think you're beautiful from how you compare to what other people tell you beautiful is. So you combine these two aspects about how you perceive your body. And, well, I like to swear a lot. And what I was about to say is, you're like, you were stuck. And so the first step of the body method is to understand that your body is actually a biology that has different systems in it. It has actually 11 medical or augmentary respiratory systems. It also has an energetic system. And both of those systems, physical and the metaphysical, are wired for your wellness. Right now in your body, there is more happening right than wrong. The day before you die, there's more happening right in your body than wrong. You have 37 trillion cells that are all electrically wired to be in communication with each other and to preserve themselves, whether or not it means to rinse out what you don't need, to actually digest the waste, or to exhale the carbon dioxide. It then also is creating new life, literally, right now today, billions of cells are regenerating, which means that in 80 to 100 days, your body, except for a few key organs, the spine, and the liver, like there's certain pieces of you that don't, but essentially your body regenerates. In 80 to 100 days, you have almost an entirely new cellular structure. Whoa. Okay. So what does that take us to? It takes us to step 2, which is observation. We get to actually now be in the presence to observe what your body actually is. Once you understand that it is something that's way more interesting and complex than how it looks, it's like, oh my gosh, there's this universe of experience in it. And how do I actually connect to that intelligence, that desire to thrive? Is I start to learn to be in the presence of it. So I observe. I learn how to witness what is happening in my body. Now, for some of us, particularly if there's a history of trauma, that is a big ask. I know that for myself, as an assault survivor, I spent the first 40 or so years of my life outside of my body, kind of hating it, but not connecting to it. And so the second stage, which is a critical stage of this process, is actually to learn how to connect to it, in part by observing what's actually the experience, which is what you feel. So again, this is a big ask, but I just want you to know that this is what we then get to do the deep work of in this process and in this method. That, whoa, I am filled with a symphony of information, from I'm thirsty or I'm tired, to something doesn't feel right about who this person is, or I'm afraid right now. And because when we start to connect to those bits of information, we now have really what leads us to the third step, which is, what do they want? What do those bits of sensation want? My thirst obviously wants hunger, my warmth wants cool, but my fear wants something. It needs attention. It needs to know that it's safe. So we go deeper into, what do you want? What does what you feel in your actual body want? Now, that's also a very complex and a deep curiosity, because if you're like me and most modern women, allowing what you desire to be fully embraced, which is the third step, desire, B.O.D., desire, is not an easy thing. And we have a lot of desires that we shame, like the chocolate cake, or sleeping in the morning, or wanting time away from our spouses or even our kids, or how we are touched, how we experience things in bed. We are so good at compromising our desire. I remember when I had my first child, I realized I could floss my teeth, go to the bathroom, and nurse all at the same time. We are brilliant at compromise. And so this process to actually start to make room for what you desire is a complex, a deep, and a very rich one. Because what it then brings you to is the fourth step, which is you. It's you. It's consolidating all of these layers of your capacity to be in the presence of yourself, which is how you then can find intimacy. Intimacy is the act of being present in the fullness of your truth and hearing, I see you and I love you, right? So to be able to do that with ourselves, for you to know that all that you are, all that you feel, all that you need, you have space for. You have space to be in the presence of yourself. That's now your stepping stone to be able to experience that with someone else. You have now the template to know both what it is that you want with someone else, literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but also you know how that is because you're doing that with you. That's the body method. That very deep, rich journey is one that you can start right now. And so you can start it just by knowing your body is not what it looks like. Start to show up for actually what your body is, be interested in what you want, and then discover a whole new way of relating to you. And by the way, that fourth step, you, is also yoni, which is a Sanskrit word for a woman's genitals. So we get to go deeper into, ooh, how do I actually experience myself? How do I bring in more pleasure? But now you're poised, right? So if you do want to do a deeper dive, I have very few and occasionally rotating one-on-one sessions, because sometimes you need really closed, safe space. If you have a history of trauma, or the idea of being in a group feels too hard, sometimes it helps just to have one-on-one. I have very few spots, but if you're interested, you can reach out to me. The other way is to join a program in a group, which actually right now I'm starting a round of, and I think I have 2 spots left. So that's a rich opportunity to be actually in the presence of a group of women who are experiencing the same thing. We get content, we get a Facebook group, we get weekly online calls to go deep into these different steps, which is broken down into many other mini steps. Oh, it just feels so good. Even thinking about it, I'm like, my belly is like, oh, yes. And so either one of those. What I ask is that we have what we get to call a discovery call to find out if you really are ready for one of those. And if these systems that I offer are the right ones for you, because we don't want for you to have anything but your yes, and for me to have my yes over here holding space for this system. So I would love to explore it if you feel the call, because if you feel the call, something is there. Otherwise, I hope we stay connected here in our newsletter or our emails, in our Facebook group. I look forward to getting to know you and to be able to see you and to be able to love you.